The arrogant invaders. The Zorgan Empire reigned supreme over a vast swath of the galaxy. Their highly advanced ships traversed the stars, fueled by technologies beyond the comprehension of lesser species. Zorgan culture revolved around conquest and domination, with their warriors bred for battle since birth. To them, warfare was an art form, and subjugating worlds was their greatest passion. Earth had only recently achieved interstellar travel, establishing a handful of fledgling colonies on nearby habitable planets. The emergence of humanity onto the galactic stage did not go unnoticed by the Zorgans. They observed mankind's first tentative steps into the stars with amusement and disdain. In their eyes, humans were primitive creatures, barely evolved past their own savage beginnings. The idea that such a weak and divided species could ever pose a threat to the mighty Zorgan Empire was laughable. When the order came to conquer the human worlds, the Zorgan fleet mobilized with arrogant efficiency. Tens of thousands of sleek, angular warships poured into human space, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. Bristling with advanced weapons and shielding, each Zorgan vessel represented a pinnacle of military engineering. Against such overwhelming technological superiority, the human forces were quickly swept aside. Colony after colony fell before the Zorgan advance. Human defenders fought bravely but futilely, their weapons unable to penetrate the alien ship's defenses. Domed cities burned beneath orbital bombardment, and terrified civilians fell to their knees before columns of Zorgan shock troops. Within weeks, every major human world beyond Earth itself had fallen under Zorgan occupation. The Zorgan commanders filed reports of their effortless victory to the imperial court. They praised the skill of their soldiers and the power of their weapons. The ease with which the human worlds had been conquered only served to inflate the Zorgans' already vast egos. Some of the more poetic among them waxed eloquent about the artistry of human subjugation and the raw beauty of their despair. But rumors had begun to circulate. Whispered tales passed among the human resistance cells that had taken root in the ruins of their conquered worlds. They spoke of a secret weapon under development by Earth's most brilliant minds, a soldier unlike any other. The humans called it the Reaper, and spoke of it with reverence and hope. The Zorgan leadership heard these rumors and scoffed. No human, no matter how augmented, could possibly challenge Zorgan might. The concept of the Reaper was dismissed as a myth, a product of human desperation and wishful thinking. And so the Zorgans turned their eyes toward Earth, confident that the last bastion of human civilization would soon fall. Untroubled by the whispers of human defiance, they began to plan their victory celebrations and divvy up the spoils of conquest. To the Zorgan Empire, the question wasn't whether they would conquer humanity, but how quickly the final battle would be won. Earth would burn, and mankind would kneel. It was inevitable, as sure as the movement of the stars and the passage of time itself. But in their arrogance, the Zorgans had underestimated their foe. For in the hidden strongholds of Earth's military, a soldier unlike any other was preparing himself for the war to come. Empowered by forbidden technologies and an unyielding human spirit, Captain Jace Reigen was about to become a nightmare made flesh to the alien invaders. The Reaper was coming, and the galaxy would soon tremble at his passing. Earth's secret weapon. In the halls of power on Earth, a grim realization had taken hold. The reports from the colonies made for bleak reading. Humanity was losing the war against the Zorgans. Earth's fleets, once thought formidable, had been reduced to broken wrecks drifting in the void. The alien weapons were too powerful, their ships too swift and maneuverable. Conventional human weapons and tactics were simply inadequate in the face of such an overwhelming foe. But in the shadows, away from prying eyes, Earth's greatest minds had been working on a secret project, a final desperate gamble to even the odds against the alien invaders. They called it Project Reaper, and its goal was nothing less than the creation of the perfect soldier. The project's lead scientist was Dr. Eva Connors, a brilliant woman who had dedicated her life to pushing the boundaries of human enhancement. She had long believed that the key to humanity's survival lay in transcending their biological limitations. With the Zorgan threat looming, she finally had the chance to put her theories into practice. At the heart of Project Reaper was a revolutionary process that melded advanced cybernetics, nanotechnology, and genetic engineering. The idea was to create a soldier who was faster, stronger, and smarter than any human in history. A warrior capable of going toe-to-toe with the Zorgan's deadliest fighters and emerging victorious. But finding a suitable candidate was no easy feat. They needed someone with exceptional physical and mental attributes, a soldier with an unbreakable will, and a fierce loyalty to humanity. In Captain Jace Reagan, they found their perfect specimen. Reagan was a decorated soldier, a veteran of countless battles against the Zorgans in the frantic defense of the colonies. He had watched friends die and worlds burn, and had sworn to do whatever it took to protect Earth from a similar fate. When Dr. Connors approached him with the offer to become humanity's ultimate weapon, he accepted without hesitation. The process was excruciating. Reagan's body was taken apart and rebuilt from the ground up, his flesh interwoven with gleaming metal and advanced polymers. His bones were reinforced with unbreakable composites, his muscles enhanced with synthetic fibers that granted him strength far beyond human norms. His senses were heightened to superhuman levels, allowing him to see in spectrums invisible to the human eye and hear whispers from kilometers away. But the greatest change was to his mind. Reagan's brain was implanted with a web of quantum circuitry, granting him lightning-fast reflexes and the ability to process information at incredible speeds. He could run combat simulations in his head, analyzing thousands of potential scenarios in the blink of an eye. His tactical genius, already formidable, had been elevated to near-prescient levels. When Reagan emerged from the chrysalis of the Reaper Project, he was no longer entirely human. He was a weapon, honed to a razor's edge, and possessing capabilities that defied belief. His body was a fortress of advanced alloys and pulsing energy, his mind a sword that could cut through any defense. As Reagan trained, pushing his new body and mind to their limits, word of the Zorgan fleet's approach reached Earth. Cities were evacuated, defenses fortified, and prayers offered to gods both old and new. But in the hidden bunker where Reagan prepared for war, a grim hope had taken hold. The Reaper was ready, and the time had come to unleash him upon the enemies of mankind. The Zorgans believed themselves unassailable, secure in their technological and martial supremacy. But they were about to learn that humanity would not go quietly into the dark. The Reaper was coming, and he would bring a reckoning unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The Reaper revealed. The Zorgan invasion of Earth began with a rain of fire from the heavens. Thousands of alien dropships screamed through the atmosphere, disgorging hordes of heavily armed warriors into the heart of humanity's greatest cities. The skies above swarmed with fighters and bombers, raining death and destruction upon military and civilian targets alike. In the chaos of those first hours, it seemed that Earth would fall as swiftly as the colonies had before it. The Zorgans were relentless, their weapons cutting through armor and fortifications like a scythe through wheat. Human defenders fought with desperate courage, but they were outmatched and overwhelmed. But then, amidst the smoke and the ruin, a lone figure emerged. He stood tall and unbowed, a gleaming colossus of advanced cybernetics and unyielding human will. The Reaper had come to war. Captain Jace Reagan charged into the fray, moving with a speed and grace that defied belief. His body was a blur of motion, his limbs imbued with a strength that allowed him to tear through Zorgan armor like paper. The alien warriors turned their weapons upon him, filling the air with searing beams of energy and storms of projectiles. But Reagan wove through the maelstrom unscathed, his advanced shielding absorbing the fury of the Zorgan assault. With each blow, each burst of gunfire, the Reaper struck back with devastating force. His hands, sheathed in power-assisted gauntlets, crushed Zorgan skulls and ripped through armored torsos. His feet, propelled by micro-thrusters, carried him across the battlefield in great bounding leaps, allowing him to bring death from above in the form of bone-shattering kicks. The effect of Reagan's presence on the human defenders was electric. They rallied around this unstoppable warrior, their fear and despair replaced by a surging tide of hope and defiance. They followed in his wake, pouring fire into the gaps he tore in the Zorgan lines. What had been a rout suddenly became a battle, and then, slowly but surely, a turning of the tide. News of the Reaper's battlefield prowess spread like wildfire. Across the globe, resistance cells took heart, launching daring raids against Zorgan supply lines and communications hubs. The name Jace Reagan became a rallying cry, a symbol of humanity's unbreakable spirit in the face of annihilation. For the Zorgan High Command, the reports from the front were deeply troubling. This Reaper was a variable they had not accounted for, a weapon they had not anticipated. The idea that a single human could pose such a threat to their conquest was galling, a blow to their collective pride that could not be tolerated. In the grand halls of their flagship, the Zorgan leaders convened an emergency council. They pored over the data from the battles, analyzing Reagan's capabilities and seeking a weakness to exploit. They saw the hope he inspired in the human defenders and understood that he represented a potential turning point in the war. With cold, ruthless calculus, the Zorgan High Command settled on a plan. The Reaper could not be allowed to become a symbol of human resistance. He had to be destroyed, his legend shattered, his hope extinguished. And to do that, they were prepared to unleash the full, terrible might of the Zorgan Empire. The orders went out, transmitted to every ship and soldier in the Zorgan army. The Earth was to be made an example of, its cities reduced to ash, its people slaughtered without mercy, and the Reaper was to be hunted down and eliminated, no matter the cost. The pride of the Zorgan species demanded nothing less. On the battlefields of Earth, Jace Reagan continued to fight, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon him and his world. The Reaper had become a beacon in the darkness, a symbol of humanity's refusal to submit. But the greatest test of his strength and resolve was yet to come. Desperate measures. The Zorgan counterattack began with a series of orbital strikes that shook the Earth to its core. Beams of superheated plasma rained down from the heavens, vaporizing entire city blocks in seconds. The aliens had abandoned all pretense of conquest, instead seeking only to annihilate the human species and reduce their world to a barren, lifeless rock. In the face of this onslaught, even the Reaper found himself hard-pressed. Jace Reagan raced from one hotspot to another, his enhanced body pushed to its limits as he fought to stem the tide of destruction. He watched in horror as buildings crumbled and fires raged, the screams of the dying filling his ears. But the Zorgans were not content to simply rain death from above. They unleashed their most fearsome warriors, elite soldiers augmented with advanced cybernetics and armed with weapons that could level city blocks. These Zorgan Reavers were the stuff of nightmares, towering brutes with skin like living metal and eyes that glowed with malevolent energy. Reagan clashed with these monstrosities in titanic battles that left entire districts in ruins. He was faster and more agile than the Reavers, but they possessed a brute strength and resilience that made them formidable foes. Each battle left Reagan battered and bleeding, his advanced healing struggling to keep pace with the damage inflicted by the Reavers' weapons. Across the globe, the situation was growing increasingly desperate. The Zorgans had shifted their tactics, targeting not just military installations, but also civilian populations. Millions had already died, and millions more were at risk. The human resistance was fighting with everything they had, but they were outgunned and outmatched. In the command bunkers deep beneath the surface, Earth's leaders grappled with the grim reality of their situation. They knew that they could not win a war of attrition against the Zorgans. Every day the conflict dragged on. More of their people died and more of their infrastructure was destroyed. They needed a knockout blow, a way to strike at the heart of the Zorgan invasion force. It was Jace Reagan who proposed the plan. In the brief moments of respite between battles, he had been analyzing the Zorgan fleet, looking for weaknesses to exploit. He had noticed that the alien ships seemed to rely on a central command vessel, a massive dreadnought that coordinated the actions of the entire invasion force. Reagan's plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. He proposed leading a small team of the Resistance's best fighters in an infiltration mission to board the Zorgan command ship and eliminate its leadership. If they could decapitate the Zorgan command structure, it would throw the entire invasion into disarray. The human leaders were initially skeptical. The Zorgan command ship would be heavily guarded, its defenses formidable. The chances of success were slim, and the potential cost in lives was high. But Reagan was insistent. He argued that it was their only chance, that if they did not act, the Zorgans would inevitably grind them down and exterminate them all. In the end, the desperate nature of their situation won out. The plan was approved, and Reagan began to assemble his team. He chose men and women who had proven themselves in the crucible of battle, soldiers who had stared death in the face and never flinched. They were the best of the best, and they knew that their mission was likely to be a one-way trip. As the team prepared, the Zorgan onslaught continued unabated. Cities burned and millions fled, seeking shelter in the dwindling safe zones. The Reaper and his comrades were humanity's last hope, the final roll of the dice in a game where the stakes could not be higher. In the depths of space, the Zorgan command ship loomed, a behemoth of alien metal and pulsing energy. On board, the Zorgan Emperor sat in his throne room, watching the destruction of Earth with cold satisfaction. He did not know that a reckoning was coming, that the Reaper and his team were about to bring the war to his doorstep. The stage was set for a final confrontation, a battle that would decide the fate of not just Earth, but potentially the entire galaxy. Judgment Day. The infiltration of the Zorgan command ship was a thing of legend, a tale that would be told and retold for generations to come. Jace Reagan and his team of hand-picked warriors breached the dreadnought's defenses with a combination of skill, courage, and sheer audacity. They slipped past security cordons, neutralized alien guards, and fought their way deeper into the heart of the ship. As they penetrated the vessel's inner sanctums, the true scale of the Zorgan war machine became apparent. The ship was a city in space, a labyrinth of corridors and chambers filled with advanced technology and teeming with soldiers. But Reagan and his team were undaunted. They pressed forward, driven by a grim determination to see their mission through to the end. Their target was the ship's command deck, where the Zorgan Emperor himself was rumored to be overseeing the invasion. It was a heavily fortified area, guarded by the most elite of the alien warriors. But Reagan had a plan. He had studied the ship's schematics, identifying a series of maintenance tunnels that could bypass the main defenses. The team split up, each warrior taking a different route to the command deck. They moved swiftly and silently, their advanced weapons and cybernetic enhancements allowing them to overcome any resistance they encountered. But as they converged on their target, they found themselves faced with a final, formidable obstacle. The Zorgan Emperor's personal guard were the finest soldiers in the entire empire, genetically engineered and cybernetically enhanced to be the ultimate warriors. They were huge, hulking brutes, bristling with advanced weaponry and armored in impenetrable exoskeletons. And they were waiting for Reagan and his team. The battle that ensued was titanic, a clash of titans that shook the very foundations of the ship. The Reaper and his team fought with a fury born of desperation, their weapons blazing as they met the Emperor's guard head-on. It was a struggle between the pinnacle of human augmentation and the apex of Zorgan genetic engineering, a contest to determine the fate of two species. Jace Reagan was a whirlwind of destruction, his enhanced body moving with a speed and precision that defied belief. He smashed through the guards' defenses, his power-assisted strikes shattering their armor and pulverizing their enhanced flesh. Around him, his team fought with equal ferocity, their weapons finding the weak points in the Zorgan's exoskeletons and exploiting them mercilessly. But the Emperor's guard would not fall easily. They fought back with a savagery born of a lifetime of training and conditioning, their weapons spewing forth streams of plasma and pulses of disruptive energy. One by one, Reagan's team began to fall, their bodies broken and burned by the guards' relentless assault. In the end, only Reagan remained, a lone human warrior facing down the might of the Zorgan elite. He was battered and bleeding, his cybernetic systems struggling to compensate for the damage he had sustained. But he would not yield. He could not. The fate of his species hung in the balance. With a final titanic effort, Reagan launched himself at the leader of the Emperor's Guard. The two warriors collided in a clash of metal and flesh, their strength and speed evenly matched. They grappled and struck, each seeking to overcome the other through sheer force of will. In that moment, something unforeseen happened. Through a combination of chance and the accumulated battle data fed into his cybernetic mind, Reagan identified a weakness in the Zorgan's enhancements, a split-second lag in the synaptic processing that controlled the brute's movements. With a thought, Reagan exploited that lag, launching a complex combinations of attacks that overloaded the Zorgan's defenses.